It's 4 o'clock. It's a bit, we will call this special planning board meeting to order. This is a specially called planning meeting. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand, and Mr. George Loach is going to do the invocation, and I'll start the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, thank you for this day and blessings as given unto us. We're thankful to be able to be here as a board and thankful for the city in which we live in. We're thankful for the blessings of life and for this great country in which we live. Thankful for the time that's been dedicated by those that are here. That God bless us that we're able to do things as we should for the betterment of our community. Things we pray for through that will in our Son Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Where did that come from? Do we have poltergeists in the building?
She's not in the building.
Chair Killebrew, Mr. Killebrew. As a part of the special meeting, since this is called, you need to read the announcement.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Ms. Thomas.
You need to read the announcement about the special call meeting into the record. Read
Which?
Second page of your
Oh, I'm
agenda
sorry.
packet.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I need to do that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You're hereby notified that a special called meeting of the planning board is hereby called to be held. Oh, that's the letter. Is that what you're wanting?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm sorry for the date and the.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you. Okay, July 6, 2022, to the members of the planning board, George Deloach, Chase Barnes, Don Rawls, Earl Wallace, Edie Wilson, and Caitlin Owens. You're hereby notified that a special called meeting of the planning board is hereby called to be held on July the 18th at City Hall located at 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida, 32177. The meeting is called to commence at 4 o'clock. The purpose of this meeting is to make a recommendation to the City Commission on proposed zoning code changes concerning minimum square footage of newly constructed residential houses. Please govern yourself accordingly. Signed, Ed Killebrew, Board Chairman, and Lisa Walsh, Planning Director. Any person wishing to appeal any decision made by the Planning Board with respect to any matter considered at such meeting will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is based. Florida Statute 286 period 0105. Is that good? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Roll call, please.
Chairman Killebrew,
Here.
George Deloach,
Here.
Earl Wallace,
Here.
Chase Barnes,
Here.
Don Rawls,
Here.
Edie Wilson, here, Caitlin Owens. No.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go next to public comments. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. No actions can be taken on the items that are brought forth before the committee, before the board. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I'll close that. And I will bring case PB 22-26, ordinance for minimum living area requirements before the board. Ms. Walsh, would you please address this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, members of the board.
Board members.
Planning board members, thank you. We've received a request to investigate and incorporate minimum living areas requirements into our zoning code for the various districts. There are many other communities that do this. I've done some research. I utilized one community in particular because they had a really great chart to read that was easy to read and use, and that was Orange County, Florida. They had some minimum requirements in there for all units was basically 500 square feet. And then it went up from there for the various zoning districts. We have gone out into the field and done some research, myself and Sunshine. And taken some photographs for y'all to look at to give you an idea of just what a 500 square foot house looks like versus other size houses. Sunshine, if you could pull up one of the first picture of the 515 square foot house. Thank you, ma'am. That's 952 square feet. That's the foundation for one. These houses are all over on Veterans Way off of, is it Palm Avenue?
No, it's Westover.
Westover, sorry, Westover, thank you. So that's the foundation for the 952 square foot house. It gives you an idea. Obviously, they're still in the beginning stages of construction. In the next picture, that is what a 512 square foot house looks like. That's one bedroom, one person, usually one person, no guarantees on that, of course, but the 952 square foot house has 2 bedrooms in it. So then we took some photographs of other houses across the street, and that house is approximately 1,100 square feet. Give you an idea of the scale. And the next house down is about 1,300 square feet. So to that end, we went into the code and started going through each zoning district. And I did a little bit of housekeeping in here as well regarding something that was brought to my attention several months ago from people at the county regarding the Florida Building Code requirements. And if you'll go to the first section of the code, it's section 94-141 or section 1 of the ordinance.
Excuse me, Ms. Walsh.
Sir?
Do we need to go refer to this or what's in here now?
Either one. The second change that I made, I'll tell you right now, is in the downtown business district. And it was a renumbering of something in the code. That
Okay.
was a list of something that was lettered A, B, C. It should have been A, B, C, D. And in the code, it was C, D, C, D instead of A, B, C, D. And that was brought to my attention by Ms. Kitchens. And so I wanted to make sure that we took care of that during these proceedings. So in the first section, you'll see where I crossed out in item. There, I crossed out in item 7, where it says all construction shall be on continuous perimeter poured concrete footers measuring a minimum of 24 inches wide by 8 inches deep. The county building official has told me that the building code doesn't recognize that. That's actually a different standard in the building code. And since we were referencing the building code, we're just going to take it out, even though we want all of our new construction to be on a continuous poured perimeter foundation. And then item 8 is what I added for a minimum living area for dwelling units of 1,200 square feet. That was also taken from that chart from Orange County and the other places that I've looked at. These numbers can change according to your wishes, if you so desire, if you have other suggestions or other experience that you want to make, but I wanted to give you those photographs as an example of the size of the square feet that have been indicated, okay? Basically, in the next section, it's the same change. Section 2, section 3 has the same change, minimum square feet of 1,200. Section 4 is our two-family residential district for the Palatka Municipal Code. And in there, I added the minimum living area, which I'm sorry is not underlined, should be underlined. Specifically for single-family dwelling units is 1,200 square feet, and if it's multifamily, then it would be 500 square feet. The other thing that I added to each of these sections is a reference to a sentence at the beginning that says, see also Appendix C. Appendix C is something that I added at the end. It's a chart of all of these development standards for each zoning district. And we'll get to that at the end. Section 5, same thing, Appendix C. Removing the footer dimension and adding minimum living area, 1,200 square feet for single family, 500 for multifamily. R4. In Section 6, that one's pretty extensive, but I also took out the dimensions of the footer and added minimum living area for dwelling units of 850 square feet. Is that underlined in your copy, Sunshine? It's not. Okay, that's interesting.
Line 27.
Page 6, line 27 should be underlined as a change.
Was, well, would you go through a number yours, Mr. Barnes?
You're in the wrong one. Yep.
Section 5.
Oh, okay.
We're in 6 now. Section 6, subsection 9.
So line 27.
Correct. Subsection 9 is a suggested addition.
We're not seeing it.
What page you said that was on 6?
Page 6.
Go back to the little one. I mean, go back to the one that's got small letters. We're missing the bottom. We're missing on the larger print.
All right, if you go to section 6, you got a 7, line 7, right up by that. You come down to 27, you got feet to any other mobile home. So this is the most updated. Well, this is 20.
As a suggested change.
Here you can't see that. You should just leave. Okay.
All right. So that's section 6. Section 7 has the same C, also appendix C. In item F, and then item 7 took out the measurement for the footer and added item 8, minimum living area for dwelling units is 500 square feet. Section 8. Item F, see also appendix C. Remove the measurement from item 7, added item 8, minimum living area, 500 square feet. Section 9, same thing. Are you with me, Mr. Wallace?
Yeah.
Okay. Section,
I'm trying to see where you're at really from my business.
okay. Section 10.
Say that.
Section 10, see also item C and item F. I'm sorry, see also appendix C. In item 4, remove the measurement. Item 5 is where I added minimum living area for single family. It's 1,200 square feet, multifamily is 500 square feet. Okay, these minimum living areas are dependent on the type of zoning district. So for example, in C3, it allows single family as well as multifamily in certain instances. And so that's why it's distinguished there. Okay. Section 11, see also appendix C, remove the dimension. In item 7, add item 8, minimum living area, 500 square feet. Section 12. See also. See also appendix C, remove the dimension, minimum living area for dwelling uses, 500 square feet. Section 13, same thing, see also appendix C, remove the dimension, minimum living area, 500 square feet. Section 14, same thing, See also Appendix C, remove the dimension in item 3. Add item 4, minimum living area for dwelling units is 500 square feet. Section 15 in the Conservation District. See also Appendix C in item D. Remove the dimension in item D3. Add D4, minimum living area for dwelling units, 1,200 square feet. Section 16, same thing. See also Appendix C. Remove the dimension, add minimum living area of 500 square feet. In the PUD, same thing. Section 17, see also Appendix C. Remove the dimension, add minimum living area for 500 square feet. Section 18. See also Appendix C in item F. Remove the dimension in item 8. And there is no living units allowed in that district. So and that's Airport 1, which is essentially the airport. So there is no residential use permitted in that zoning district. Now in section 14, this AP2, there are some living or employee quarters that are permitted in that zoning district, but it's the same changes. See also Appendix C and item F, sir. Yes, sir. Because I numbered it wrong, that's why. Yep, it's a typo. Yep, that should be an X instead of a, it should be XIX and not XIV. I'll change that. All right. 19, yes. All right, so those changes are the same as far as the see also Appendix C, removing the dimension and adding 500 square foot minimum living area. And the next section is 15, but it should be XX and not XV. Same changes. Except there is no requirement for a perimeter poured footing. Minimum living area in this zoning district is 1,200 square feet. Next section should be section 21 and not 26. Or 16, I'm gonna have to check all of those section numbers, boy.
Is that the reason Sonny's not here today? She finally messed up.
No, this was not her. This is all me. I shall take ownership of this one. Exactly. Cursive writing and all that other stuff. All right, so the next section is downtown riverfront. Same change, see also Appendix C. That's an item G. And then on the next page, item H was added for a minimum living area of 1,200 square feet for single family dwelling units. And in that one, we added the perimeter poured concrete footers because it wasn't in there. Next section should be section 22. It should be XXII and not XVII. Same changes, see also Appendix C. And that is downtown business district. And that's where I did the relettering for item 2C and D. The item 2C and D, the first one should be A and B and not C and D. All right. Minimum living area for single family dwelling units is 1,200 square feet. If there's any confusion about why there are minimum areas required for the various dwelling units above that, it says for residential uses, above the first floor for buildings fronting St. John's Avenue. So if you're going to construct new units along St. John's Avenue, it has to be above the first floor, and they have to conform to those aerial requirements for studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, et cetera. Okay? And that's why I added only just the minimum living area for single-family dwelling units of 1,200 square feet in there, because if you were going, they are permitted, single-family dwelling units are permitted in the DB district, but if you're going to construct a new one, it has to be minimum 1,200 square feet. Okay? And I also added the perimeter concrete footer requirement there. Next section. Similar revisions, see also Appendix C. And added minimum living area for dwelling units of 500 square feet. And that's for PUDs. Sir,
Back to 22 there.
okay,
Line 32. There's not gonna be some kind of conflict because you're addressing apartments on the second floor, and you're saying you gotta have a footer all the way around them.
but it wouldn't apply to those buildings if you're constructing on the second floor, because the building would be an existing building. Or, well, it could be a new one, but
It
yeah,
says all construction.
right. So if you were to construct a new building, it would have to have that kind of footer. Make sense?
Yeah, everybody else is good with it. It's still,
When they do a continuous footer, it's gonna be,
I know.
and then they can go up multiple stories, but is it fair to assume that they can do commercial on the bottom, residential upstairs,
Correct.
and that would qualify the residential upstairs?
Ms. Rose, would you match your microphone when you talk, please? Thank you.
If they're doing a 2-story with commercial on the bottom, residential upstairs, they would do a continuous footer.
Right.
Based on,
Correct.
That doesn't address if they're putting on apartments upstairs of existing buildings.
Well, they wouldn't have to go back in and create a new footer, no.
How about will you let her get through reading the reading, and then we come back with the staff comments and just make your notes and come back and ask those questions, please.
Okay. So let's see, where did we end up? Page 19 or 20? You're on 14? Okay.
Mine does too.
14, 15, 21, page,
Section 21?
Yeah. Did you already do section 21?
Earl was referencing section 22, if I understand correctly, downtown business district.
Right, that's the last one we did.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next section is for PID, Planned Industrial Development District. Again, see Appendix C in item D. And then a minimum living area for dwelling units of 500 square feet. And lastly, development standards for PUD. Minimum living area for dwelling units is 500 square feet, and see also Appendix C. So then Appendix C should be in the back of your packet. It should be the chart that you have. And that's basically just a chart, a summary of all the development standards that are listed in each zoning district.
It's in the big one.
Is your last column the minimum living area?
No, we're only up to minimum yard front. As far as our, and then you can't really see, we have all of the bottom of the pages on.
Okay.
That's why we.
Okay, so this is, like I said, just a summary of all of the development standards for each zoning district with lots of footnotes behind it.
So can y'all go print this out like on legal page or something?
You should have a copy of it in your email.
Well, I mean, I don't want to email it on my phone.
Well, that's the chart right there.
Right. I know.
Can you not see that?
I can see it, but I can't read everything.
Okay.
Put your glasses on.
I took my glasses off. I mean, really, I'd like to be able to study, see, I still can't. I mean, I can read 10,000 feet, 72.
Right.
Ms. Neely has stepped out to make copies. She'll be right back.
Thank you.
Nothing on this chart is new except for the last column, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick? Prior to your changes, was there minimums before? Or we
No,
just-
ma'am.
We
There
just
were
let
no-
people come in and build whatever they wanted to? Or,
We didn't have the authority to say no.
yeah, I'd like a paper with the end, just to.
Ms. Neely should be right back.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's adopted by the city commission, yes.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, are we open to comments from the board while we're waiting for the chart?
I'd prefer to let Ms. Walsh get through with her reading and commenting on, and then we'll comment.
I'm sorry, I thought we were. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm pretty,
Okay, I thought
done.
you were going to go do
We're-
something on this.
no, the only thing I wanted to show you was the chart that was actually had been created, and
Okay.
the last column is the newest, is the thing that we've added to everything for the
Does
minimum.
anybody on the board have any objections to moving on to comment? Okay, then we'll move into the board comment section. Mr. Bourne.
Mr. Chairman, my first question is, what is our objective to adding these regulations? You know, regulation for the sake of regulation is normally never recommended. So what is our purpose? Why are we tackling this at this moment?
Okay. We need a standard in the city to decide what our community wants to look like. Do we want a community of mostly larger homes, or do we want a variety of sizes of houses so that different people can afford them? And have a choice as to where they want to live. Maybe they don't want a big old house and they're my age and they're like, no, I'm downsizing and I don't need a 2,200 square foot house. But I would like an option to be able to rent or purchase a smaller one, so that I don't have as much work to do when I get off of work or after I retire.
Mr. Holmes.
Well, I think that originally the.
Mr. Holmes,
You're not retired yet.
The goal was originally to establish at least a minimum size of the homes. And quite frankly, it was prompted by comment at a city commission meeting recently where someone proposed to build some 220 square foot homes. And And there are lots in the city of Palatka which would allow someone to build a 220 square foot home in the absence of some sort of regulation that prescribes some minimum size without the necessity of a PUD, planned unit development, or subdivision, or anything of that nature, because they're already existing. And so the question then arose was, do we really think that it'd be in the best interest of the city to have 220 square foot homes placed on existing lots in the city? And if you think so, then obviously you can say you don't want to go forward with this, but staff felt obligated to bring something forward for the city commission's consideration that would afford at least a minimum, and 500 square feet would not seem to be onerous. If I or me is designing it, it probably would be higher than 500 square feet, but you know, that was staff's position, and I'm happy for staff to move forward with it, at least to the city commission level. But 220 square feet is 10 by 22, folks. And you know, you're putting a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living area in 220 square feet. I guess that's an individual. For me either, but I guess that's one of those preference things.
Yeah.
500 square feet is not big enough.
Well, I'm seeing minimum requirements of 1,200 square feet for all single family. You know, and not until we get to multifamily apartment types do we drop to 500. So, I mean,
Not apartments though. I mean, right? I mean, I understood when our conversation was 500, you could build a house for 500. Is that not accurate? You can build a house at 500 square feet under those regulations, as I understand them. And I've not reviewed them in detail, but in talking to Ms. Walsh, you can build a house at 500 square feet under those regulations. It just can't be in the R1 district.
And don't get the mindset of efficiency apartment. That'd be
Well,
plenty big enough.
why?
Because that's even smaller.
And that was going to be, I mean, that was going to be my question is, I mean, you know, would this affect homes that are already built that are putting like a mother-in-law cottage or something outside their home?
absolutely.
I mean, you know,
Well,
and
I
that's-
don't know if we allow mother-in-law cottages under the code, so I don't want to speak to that.
My experience is they have to be attached to the existing residence.
The accessory dwelling units are permitted in some zoning districts and not in others.
Right.
So yes, it would apply to them as well.
that's what I mean, I've had people ask me questions about that. So,
But the county has like a mother-in-law cottage, I think they have a maximum of how large it can be, and I think I don't want to say, but I think it's 1,100 square feet or something like that.
It's a percentage of the base unit, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
has to be, if it's going to be an accessory unit, it has to be at least 1 square foot smaller than the primary use.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's what our county code says exactly, but that's been my experience in other
I think there's
places.
more to
Yeah.
it than that. I believe there's more to it than that. I think there is a maximum on what you can have in it if it's being built as a mother-in-law suite, family suite, and you know, you're not doing a lot split or anything else. You're just asking for another dwelling unit. But that's just kind of for reference anyway. I mean, the city does what the city wants and needs to do, and there's some differences in land size, lot size, and all that good stuff when you talk about county city. So if you ask though, the I guess motivation, the motivation was just what I said. We looked at the lots in question and thought that putting up 7, 8, 9, 220 square foot houses on those 7, 8, 9, 10 lots just wasn't going to be the development that the city of Palatka needed. But your thoughts could be different, and ultimately the city commission will decide. But that's an honest answer to your question.
Thank you for that.
It doesn't address it. And so mother-in-law suite attached to something, it says a dwelling unit.
I do think that tiny homes in general are becoming more popular. And most of them actually do start out lower than 500. I think 500 is a good place to start personally, but I do think you might be surprised at how popular tiny homes are, especially among like younger people. It does tend to be something that I think we might see in the future. Just my 2 cents.
Mr. Barnes.
For the sake of clarity, living area as reference is defined as heated and cooled, correct? Not under roof? So
Not
garages,
specified, but yes, that's
porches,
my understanding.
well, that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
So currently, if I had to guess, being in real estate, a third to a half of the homes in the city, especially south city limits, are going to be under 1,200 square foot. And I'm reading single family residential, minimum living area, 1,200 square foot for R1 AA, R1A, and R1. So I'm reading that is, if I want to build a new home in Rolling Hills, it's got to be 1,200 square foot. Is that accurate?
Yes.
See, and
Okay.
when we price houses in construction, it's under roof, not heated and cooled. So you can have 1,000 square foot house and have a front porch and a back porch equal 200 square feet, and there's your 1,200 square foot house.
So it comes down to living area. What do you think about living area?
Living area is heated and cooled.
That was my question.
It can go either way.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Throw a carport on the front of that.
Definition. Yep.
So let's assume living area and we'll specify, but can we assume that it's heated and cooled? No. No. For the rest of this discussion and is that a fair definition for everybody?
And see, it says here, minimum living area. Living area.
That's a term that
Yeah,
she pulled up. So we
should
just
be
need to
heated and
define.
cooled.
Well, that's gotta be fine.
Yeah.
But as we're talking here today,
Moving forward in our conversation, do we want living area to mean under roof or to mean heated and cooled?
Heated and cooled.
Okay, I agree. I know that there are dozens upon dozens, maybe hundreds of homes that are very efficient in our city limits that are well below 1,200 square foot. 3-bedroom, 1-bath homes meet the needs of a lot of families in our community, and my first one was on Wells Avenue and it was 980 something square feet. So I think if nothing else, this number might need to be adjusted. But I guess I'm trying to figure out. Are we, okay, so our objective is to eliminate our 200 square foot homes. The other half of me, the devil's advocate, says, is there a market for 200 square foot homes in our community? And if so, is it right for us to strike that market? If the developer wants to invest in 200 square foot homes, it's kind of his risk to do so, wouldn't we think, in the general market, free market?
See, and my objection to that is you go buy a house for 250 square feet and the existing properties are there. The assessment value on that is going to you're going to have a lot that you sell for a couple thousand. You build a house and it's going to be 250 square feet. What is the market value of that house?
More than the
Because
vacant lot.
you're going to get your tax. You're gonna get your exemption.
Especially if you have a $50,000
$50,000 exemption. What are you gonna pay? There's people that are moving here. It's not like Florida collects income taxes. It's property taxes.
we have to
So
think about
you're taking that.
Areas that are, if they meet code, they're not substandard, but are we gonna create substandard areas where we got blighted slums?
There's gonna be no tax collected on those. What do you think they're gonna turn out to be?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you got a 500 or
And if the purpose,
word's not coming, the little house.
Little house.
Yeah, the tiny, yeah, they are popular,
Yeah.
especially
I like
among,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Tiny house. We're creating something I think we don't want to create.
low tax base. And shouldn't our concern be in growing our tax base?
I'm a demo lawyer, not a planner, but I'm just visioning the long-term consequence of a 220 square foot house, not 250, 10 by 22 house. that you put a bathroom, a bedroom, a kitchen, a living area in. I don't know where you put closets or, you know, the room for the HVAC or any of that, but
Minimum square footage of a bedroom is 10 by 10.
that's 100. So that
So
leaves
there's
you
100.
120 square feet for everything else that you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it better than a tent for somebody who's living homeless? I guess it would be. But from the perspective of the development of your community, is that the way you want your planning to advance? I guess everyone is free to have their own thought about that. Looking at the veterans housing, which Ms. Walsh looked at, I guess their minimum size is 515. And that goes up to like 1,000 or 1,100.
The second house that you saw, the smaller, of just the foundation, that was 952 square feet.
So, I mean, that's,
Which they came before us.
yeah.
to-
And there are many people who feel that that's kind of like the low, that's the threshold, that's the low end of the equation. But I mean, to your point, if a builder builds it, and we just had that conversation today, and I hadn't thought too much about it, but you probably know, we were told by a builder today that, or Ms. Walsh was told by a builder today, and she related to me, was that it really isn't even economically feasible for a builder to build a 220 square foot house, because you've got the bathroom costs involved, you got the HVAC cost involved, you got the kitchen cost involved, all of that's already there. So the space that you're cutting out
The cheapest thing to build.
is the cheapest thing to build, right? So, you know, if somebody does build them, you have to wonder about what the motivation is, because the economic factor wouldn't seem to be there. I don't know how you build a profit. I don't know how you build a profit margin into that house, is
Right.
what I'm saying, and sell it.
Isn't 20 by 25 any better? We could put 4 houses in this room.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I mean, to Ms. Owens' point, there are people who, I won't even tell you that I could get by with that, because I guess our generation like to accumulate junk. And it's my junk. I like the junk, but could I get it in a 500 square foot house? No, not in a room for me. So I don't know how that's going to work out as times go forward, but I do know that from my perspective, if I were working at this from a planning perspective, I think you'd almost have to create subdivisions or PUD type arrangements where that scenario could be present, and provide for amenities, commons areas, and things of that nature that would make it something that, you know, at least you could, or I could rationalize as being a development that could serve a purpose. I just can't see a 220. That's me personally. I know I say I a lot, and I'm not in charge of this operation.
See a 500 square foot house.
Well, everything that we're talking about here, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, Ms. Thomas and Ms. Walsh, Mr. Holmes. If we did this and you put a minimum living area of 1,200 square foot, which you're saying, you know, we're going against the people's rights and things like that, freedoms, all of that can be put in place. And then, in fact, if somebody wants to do a subdivision or something like that with the mini homes, they could just come back to us and seek a variance like everybody else. Then,
I
no?
don't believe so, not unless you build a variance procedure into the code. So you
Okay.
can't just vary from any ordinance or regulation that's in place
Okay.
unless there's a provision for the variance in the ordinance. You know, a variance, in order for it to be something other than arbitrary and capricious, has to provide a standard by which the variance can be granted. You know, what criteria do I meet to be given a variance?
Mhm.
It isn't just at the whim of whatever the body is that's considering the request. So, you know, and I think what Ms. Walsh did was the 1,200 was only in R1, right?
No, it's throughout other districts,
Okay.
R1A, A, and
Okay, then in those districts. So if you wanted to say that was too much, and then I heard what Mr. Barnes said, and maybe he's right. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody's opinion whatsoever here. But if you said that we think 1,200 is a bit too high for a minimum, okay. I mean, you're free to set a number, and then the commission can also look at it and see where they go with it. But our thought was, if the commission and the city commission decide that this is not necessary, so be it. What we didn't want to have happen from staff's perspective was, see one of these permits start coming in, applications start coming in. And when people see the 220 square foot house is being built next to them and they ask, how are you letting this happen? What's this going to do to our tax, our value of our property to have a 220 square foot house next to us? And we say, or the commissioner calls me and says, Don, how'd you let this happen? And I say, yeah, we just never get around to getting an ordinance passed that would have given you any control. That's what I don't want to have happen. I don't want it to be on staff. If you and the commission think it's fine, then so be it. That's what you guys are, that's what you're here to advise about, and that's what they're here to voice their opinion about. But I didn't want staff to be caught in a position where we didn't give you an opportunity to make that decision before the first application started coming in.
And I agree with you. I mean, I think that, you know, if you've got, let's just call it a subdivision, you know, if you got a subdivision already started, and it's you start, somebody comes in, just what you said a minute ago, Ms. Ross, about the smaller tiny home coming in next to a bigger home, and what's to stop it to happen. I think that we need to have some kind of minimum in place. I mean, you know, when you River Groves over in East Palatka, I know that's not in Palatka, but you have some nicer houses down along the river, you know, and then the smaller houses were put out by the road or about, you know, to the beginning of the subdivision coming in. You know, somewhere along the line, you've got to think about the people that are building the houses and purchasing the houses and things like that. I mean, what are you allowing somebody come in, you know, have a lot, and then they got to, again, you go to, let's go to Fairways.
You're creating something that nobody wants. You know, nobody wants the smallest house in the neighborhood. Nobody wants the biggest house in the neighborhood. You know?
Mr. Barr?
Can I comment? On the record, I'm not necessarily in favor of small houses, but you said you're creating something that nobody wants. Well, if that's the case, then it'll never be created.
So what happens then? It's built, and then what happens to it?
They don't want one mixed in with a bunch of contrary.
Create a PUD, create a planned unit development to where
I think
in this location in Putnam County, in the city, wherever, that you have these small houses, but you're in your PUD, you're gonna have a community barbecue area, you're gonna have a cabana, you're gonna have a pool, you're gonna have all these other amenities that your little tiny house doesn't have.
Now, some subdivisions, as we all know, have deed restrictions.
Yeah.
Well, let's just imagine Crystal Cove and vacant lot out there, and somebody plops a 220 square foot house down there and comes to the city and says, y'all let this happen.
We've already put a trailer park there.
I think it would be rare.
Hold on. For a mobile. They already put that small, there is a small house over there. You have, you know, multi-million-dollar houses on the river, and then you got this little small house. It's a 1,200 square foot, right when you pull in. Crystal Cove. There was a lot there.
I think it would be rare to see just one tiny house. I think what'll end up happening is.
Hang on, Mr. Wallace.
I think it would be just rare to see just one. I think we would end up seeing the tiny home communities in general are what I think is what's really popular, where they essentially build like a whole thing around it. So I think that's a great idea in terms of setting up something for that, rather than maybe making it to where we would have one small house, one large house, maybe one small house, or a bunch of variants. You know, that's my opinion.
I did have both Ms. Walsh and Ms. Thomas are giving me dirty looks, so.
I did such a hard time. I'm telling you.
Can we get back to a minimum? 500.
Go back to your office. Mr. Bell.
500 is way too small.
Mhm.
I mean, we're trying to add more tax base into the city. And I know what, like Chase was saying, some of these older homes in Palatka, it was the times is what, you know, there were 3 ones and they were from 900 and some,
Right.
you know, on up. It's just how it was. And then, you know, everybody got bigger and bigger. But yes, not everybody can afford 2,000 square feet, but I don't know where we got to set it at, but we've got to keep our tax base. Because I think where it's at, where it can hurt us, it's not necessarily in the fairways, because they probably have stuff in place. But it's just going to be like these little lots. So how many square feet are the houses right there at the end of Hudson on St. John's? that girl put up the two.
If I had to guess, like 1050 or
Yeah,
something, but I'm
I
guessing,
think they're about 1,000 to 1,100.
Yeah.
And I mean, now that's
I mean, we
guessing.
don't wanna go lower.
Yeah, you really don't, because you
They're
leave
gonna
no
be
room for
slapped in
garages.
there.
They are.
They're gonna get slapped in, so let's just pretend, even though
I mean-
Rolling Hills has it rolled, you know, that somebody's coming in with this. We need to have a tax base, we need to grow.
And sometimes you may want to put, if we have a lot that's non-conforming, maybe the city will take it back and put a community park, or maybe they do, I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be done. This guy right here that owns this house right here, how happy do you think he is living by himself in 500 square feet?
Well, that's
How
a,
much company does he have come over?
that's
How
a
much
veteran's
family?
home.
Well,
I know, even our veterans. We
But-
thought enough of them to build up a 500 square foot, one bedroom. I mean,
well, I'm
That's-
sure he's happy.
I'm,
It is
I
probably
I
all
just-
we need.
I
That's
just
Habitat
wish
for
that we would've
Humanity.
had a minimum of 900 square feet for that veteran. Fought for our country and he's living in a 500 square foot. That's my opinion. I think we need to have a minimum, and I think 1,200 is perfectly fine. I just don't
I
see
think we
growing
should-
families and resale value,
I'm at 1,100 in my brain, but
1,100, 1,200.
I know.
1,200, you got
100, yeah.
1,100, you got something as big as this table here.
I mean, I'm living in less than 1,100 and just me.
Yeah,
and
but
two
we're
things
talking about
going
the
on.
difference in 11 and
Yeah,
12.
yeah.
12 is, that's.
That's a
every-
bedroom.
Everywhere you go,
It's an
you
office.
see 1,200 square feet,
Mhm.
and you got a certain size lot, which I noticed we were 75 by 100, you can't, that's gotta be a big lot. You see that everywhere, 1,200 square foot house, and 75 by 100.
Miss, I'm gonna, the pleasure of the board, I'm gonna let Miss Kitchens, she's asked to speak, if that's okay.
please.
Come forward. Give us your name and address, please.
Legally Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I think we definitely need a minimum building standard. When I heard the presentation or the comment at City Commission that this fellow wanted to build, supposedly an 82-year-old lady had come to this fellow and asked him to build her a house, and he was going to do a 220-foot square house for her. Folks, I drive a station wagon, a 95 Chevrolet Caprice. It's 8 by 20, that's 160 square feet. Attach a small Volkswagen behind it, and you probably got 220 square feet. You want to live in a station wagon?
That's a battleship you drive.
Same thing. But the point is, that give you the size that's ridiculous.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
must set minimum standards. I would like to see the minimum a little bit higher. However, the minimum of 500 doesn't hurt the veterans. Habitat for Humanity built those homes as to what the veterans needed and wanted. 500 is the minimum. They could have built it at 1,200, 1,500, 50,000. It was just if we set the minimum, it can't go below that. And as for what the market, yes, there's a market here and there for tiny homes. I've watched the AGTVs show tiny homes. I think they're adorable. I wouldn't mind having one in my backyard so that I could use my house as storage. But because like Mr. Holmes said, we have several of us have quite a bit of accumulation. There's no way I could live in 220 square feet. I'd rather live in my station wagon. At least I can move it. But I think you must set a minimum square foot limit. You have developers coming in that don't give a flip about the city of Palatka. They just want to make money and haul buggy out of here. Without development standards, without building standards, you're open to anything that comes down the tubes. And if somebody wants a small house, like I think Ms. Rawls said, get a PUD. And it doesn't even have to be in the city of Palatka. I personally don't want to see 10 or 20 small, tiny homes across the street from my house where a certain developer's bought a tax deed on some undeveloped property. And I think that runs down the value of your property. I would not buy a regular sized house in a tiny house neighborhood. Set the minimum standard. If you don't like 500, set it higher. The things that are already built are going to be grandfathered in. You're not going to go in and make people tear down their apartment buildings or their houses, but set a minimum standard. Let's get some rules and guidelines here to stop the city of Palatka from being ravaged, shall we say, by unscrupulous developers that want to just make money, get PR and haul buggy out of here. And note, I cleaned up my conversation. Pass the darn thing. There's nothing wrong with it. Minimum square footage of 1,200. I got no problem with that. And the other zoning, my zoning's R1A. I'm fine with a minimum building dimension of 1,200 square feet. My house is right at 1,200 square feet. I could use 2,400 square feet, but it is what it is. So, I mean, You got to set a minimum standard. You want to set higher than 500, then I'd say set it higher than 500, but for God's sakes, don't go below 500. I mean, the old outhouses were probably 220 square feet. Why in the world would you want to let people build 220 square foot houses in the city of Palatka? Seriously, don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kitchen. So. So with this particular, we have to have another meeting on this, do we not? Or do we?
You don't have to have another meeting. This can go to the commission.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I didn't know. When you and I talked about it, I thought I heard you say we had to have 2 meetings for this. So,
You have to have a minimum of 2 public hearings. So this is when we will actually have 3. So this is number 1 and then 2 commission hearings.
okay.
So there will be 3.
So what we actually need to do is push this on to a motion before the board. I mean,
Can
to
can I
accept.
comment?
Yes, sir. Hang on just a minute.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure my mind's clear here. To accept what we've got before us. Is that right, Ms. Thomas?
Make a motion, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn on my microphone. To make a motion that you accept the proposed ordinance, yes.
Okay.
To move it to the commission, yes.
Mr. Barnes?
I just had one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Walsh, is that Mr. Wallace had a question on page 14. Line 32, the small package. And you wanted to know about, you said all construction should be on continuous perimeter poured concrete footers. And he was saying that, what about the ones that are already existing if they want to do housing on the 2nd floor? So, are you talking about new construction for?
Well, if it goes on the 2nd floor as residential, then it's new construction.
True.
It just needs to be defined.
Right.
Don't leave anything, when I used to write descriptions of property, you never left, sometimes you got so redundant, repeat stuff, but you never left it in doubt as to what you meant.
Right. And so I just wanted to bring that up. If that's something that the board wants to consider about that one, as well as the definition of living area, then those should be added to the part of the motion to be, to amend this document with those corrections.
Okay. Mr. Barnes?
May I add also clarity? It's my understanding, my home on Wells Avenue, 980 square foot, if it burned all but, a portion of one wall, moving forward to rebuild it, it's considered new construction. Therefore, at that time, I'd have to adhere to new codes. So, our previous speaker mentioned all homes currently existed and are grandfathered in. That's not the case. If there is, and I don't know the cutoff for said repair, but if there's significant repairs that need to be done to a home, it then becomes new construction, even though it's a pre-existing foundation, so to speak. That would make it have to conform to the new standards.
Do we add language?
You can add language to cover.
Yeah.
Existing home being burned, flooded,
What is
washed
that?
away.
What would that be
whatever.
called? Not a natural disaster, but
No, just anything.
Anything
got
that-
rid of
yeah.
the existing that
because if
you
you're
want to
building,
rebuild,
if you're building like for like from existing
You should be able.
You should be able to
on
put
the
it back.
footprint.
on the footprint.
In our code, there's a percentage of destruction.
Yeah. If it's
That
over-
has
if it's
the-
over 51%.
That's
you
that-
tip
that-
the
that
scales and
threshold.
You have to bring it back up to 100% code. So if the back end of your house burned, and it caught more than half the house and you're doing more than 51%, if you're rewiring the house more than 51%, or you're replumbing that has to be brought back up to current code. You can't just continue from knob and tube and then start adding, new electrical. You have to bring it all, 100% of the house has to be brought up to code. So you're not gonna, I don't know.
Last comment, and then I will rest my case. One, I'm a little, I guess, concerned is the best word. I don't like the perception of this. You know, we called a special planning meeting to discuss this. This is a big change to our code. And I don't like the perception that it brings calling a special meeting versus, you know, our normally stated meeting, which could have taken place in 2 weeks from now. In addition, I'm going to fall back on my previous statement. 1,200 square foot, I think, is excessive. I'm not opposed to minimum square footages. I don't necessarily want to see tiny homes, you know, but I'm not for the sake of regulation, just for regulation. And I think y'all would be amazed at how many homes are very efficient in our community that are significantly less than 1,200 square feet. And the difference between 1,000 square foot home right now and a 1,200 square foot home at 150 a square foot is what, 50 grand? And that could make the difference in somebody's budget. So I think 1,200 square foot is excessive. I don't necessarily have a complaint with 500 square foot, but that is my last comment, and I will hush it.
Anybody else have any further comment? Okay. I will ask for a motion to accept the staff's recommendations. Is that correct? Or as
And if you want to add those amendments that talk about the definitions.
I'll make a motion
Yeah.
to accept the staff's proposal with the following changes of living square footage be changed to heated square feet. Any type of natural disaster to a current home that is less than the square footage, it would be on a case-by-case basis for them to come in and permit that if it was a disaster and they had to rebuild and the insurance company only gave them a certain amount for a certain square footage.
I think we already have that.
Existing footprint of a house.
We have that in our code under, we
But-
do that. And I don't know what the exact percentage is, but
Okay.
when you're saying you don't want, you just want to say disaster, or I feel like you would just want to say disaster, not natural. Because
Yeah,
if, you know,
and I think in the code it says
it's already-
any instance, whether
Any
it's
incident, so if
fire,
we
flood,
have to amend it.
Okay.
whatever.
So basically the motion would be changing the minimum living to heated. And what was that Earl had suggested? I started writing it down.
Defining the applicability of the footers to new or existing construction.
Yeah, making that definition more clear about the
Okay.
footers.
All right.
And this is in the downtown business, right, district?
Yeah,
This-
yeah.
Downtown business and downtown
And
downtown riverfront.
Right.
We worked long and hard to get residential because there were some of us that thought that would be a kick the fence to get downtown and coming back.
And it would be. And it would be.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it was hard to get. You wouldn't believe it was.
okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Wait, let's step back.
We have to have a second to have discussion.
Did we, one of your changes, was it a minimum square footage?
I accepted the minimum square footage that was listed here of 1,200 for
Oh,
R1, 500 for R2, listed here. I accepted the minimum square footage and then making the change from square footage to, instead of living, make sure it was heated. And then the footer notes.
and
That's my motion.
if we missed any, can you throw something catch-all in there to clean up some of these definitions that, you know, where we need to?
Florida Building Code is gonna catch everything else.
Not necessarily so.
Okay, we have a motion. We have to have a second to have discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, accepting the code as the staff has given to us with the amendments that are put to it. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
I think our definition of disaster is very vague and unclear and important, as recommended. And yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Why can't you build back what you have? You should be able to.
Well, that's what,
build back what was there.
that's what we're trying to say here. And Ms. Walsh says it, that is in our
Yes.
existing codes
Yes, it is.
already.
It's not something that we're talking about.
All
these
we're talking
changes.
about here is the square footage of minimums of square footages. Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
But our current code states that if an existing structure is damaged beyond 51%, it has to be built back to current standards being upgraded, electrical standards, plumbing standards, this being a new upgraded standard. So it would also apply. So I'm unclear with a vague definition of how y'all want to undo that.
I don't think you're gonna do that. If, if you undo that, you're saying our standards mean nothing, that they're just hanging out there for fun of. We got electrical standards, we got plumbing standards. Every time you turn around, there's a new standard. Don knows. There's a new standard being tapped in there, but they're for the good of the people who are gonna live in these houses or dwellings. So having it come back to current standards, to me, is not bad. We need to be able to let you rebuild your 900-foot square house to current standards. You see what I mean? The standards are not the thing, it's the footprint we're talking about. See,
But this ordinance makes the footprint a standard. So we need to figure out how to better define it. If it's the board's, if it's the board's opinion that you need to bulldoze it and build a new one, then that just needs to be defined. I think we're vague at the moment.
Ms. Owens?
And I have a 900 square foot home, and it's a total loss because it's more than 51%. I would then be required to then build a 1,200 square foot home. And I don't necessarily know, is that correct?
Yes.
And I understand that. I do also understand that. Because I definitely electricity, plumbing, all of that, there's a reason that's. But if I was the homeowner, I would certainly, and if I had that happen and there wasn't obviously a lawyer or anything like that, then what, and I don't know how it works out in terms of insurance, but if I lose the 900 square foot home and I can't put a 1,200 square foot home back for whatever reason or don't want to, then I would essentially would have to move, right? Or go somewhere else. And how do we work that out?
Or you could build another, right.
We would make you do it to 1,200.
Right.
But we want to be able to allow the homeowner to build the same square footage that just burnt down.
back to the same square footage, footprint, however you want to.
But everything else has to be done.
It goes back to what we were talking about. Bring up the point that they technically kind of are if they do lose their. So, which I get that that's the way that it is now, but I do understand it. But I also understand the perspective of, well, I lost my 900 square foot home. I want to build that back to code with everything else, but I do get that.
See, I would like to see us put 1,200 square feet for the minimum, but also allow you to come back for your 900 square feet if that's what you've got.
We'll amend the motion that way. I said, can we amend the motion that way, Ms. Thomas?
No, we're talking about two different ordinances now. We're talking about in this ordinance, minimum square footage. You're talking about.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, this was actually what I was exactly thinking about is we essentially then would have to change a whole other thing, and I don't think that's possible, right? Is it right?
Not at this moment, not at this moment. it is
Not with this document.
And I would.
Not at
All
this
we're gonna
moment.
do is vote this down and.
It's not in this ordinance. Let her finish. She was just saying, let her finish what she was saying.
In this proposed ordinance, it is establishing minimum square footage for new housing, new construction to come in. what you're talking about with the destruction of an existing house that's greater than 51%, and then you rebuild it back to existing standards. Well, that would affect that. You need to go back and amend that ordinance
Okay.
when it had to do with destruction and the reconstruction.
Okay.
This is strictly new construction,
This is
not,
strict.
not,
Okay, let's
Right.
deal with the,
That matter is not before. the
right,
board.
let's deal with the motion we have on the floor.
So the 51% Mr. Warren is talking
completely
about,
different part.
that would be in the different ordinance back. and
Right.
It would not be considered new construction. It would be.
It would be considered new construction at that point, but we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with this ordinance now.
Vacant lots.
And we cannot change what Ms. Thomas is saying. We can't change the other ordinance. We can deal with what we got on the board here and then later on come back to that venue, or that's what you want to call it. And, come back to that and, how that works. Right now, we're dealing with this.
And just as an aside, as Ms. Walsh said earlier, there are 3 public hearings on this. The one you're having today, 2 before the county commission, the city commission. I've worked for the county for a long time, sorry. And 2 before the city commission. At that point, during one of the city commission meetings, you can bring forth this idea of changing, amending the ordinance with the reconstruction of a destroyed home where, you're rebuilding it to carve out that exception. And that's something you can bring before the commission at that time. The commissioner could direct Ms. Walsh to amend that ordinance, and then that would be brought forward, and then this entire matter would be resolved.
Right.
So, yes, Mr. Barnes.
I hear what Ms. Thomas is saying, and you are completely correct, but isn't it proper to present the best finished product to the commission? And instead of leaving a lot of things hanging and saying, yep, we stamp it, and then go try to fix it later?
But you
What?
cannot fix it.
She's saying you can't fix that. We cannot do that other ordinance.
You cannot fix it in this ordinance.
I agree. That's one of my objections to this ordinance.
I understand that.
But we have to deal with this ordinance.
I understand.
So what I'm going to ask at this point, we've come to a standstill. What I'm going to ask at this point, we have a motion and we have a second.
And it's at 500.
No, it's
1,200.
It's at 1,200 for half, 500 for the other half,
Right,
and a one random 850, I think.
okay. But what I'm going to ask at this point, because what you're bringing up is a moot point, because we can't do anything else with the
I
other
agree.
ordinance.
I
Okay,
agree.
so right now we have a motion and a second before us. Is there any other comments?
One,
Can you read the motion here? It's to accept.
It's to accept
As
Ms. Walsh
As presented.
as presented, with the exception of, go ahead and say it.
The exception of the living square footage be renamed to heating square foot,
Heating and air.
heating and air,
air's not
air is
required.
not required.
Heating.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And the footer for the downtown district to be more specific for second floor residential. Was that not?
That's not how you worded it a minute ago.
The footer be reworded,
Did you take that down or are you just recording everything?
clarify.
Okay. Okay,
What
I'm sorry.
what I have is to keep the minimum living area, but then add a definition for living area that would include the heated space. Right?
Right,
And then define the applicability of new and existing construction regarding the footers
right.
in the downtown business and the downtown riverfront
Right.
districts.
Correct.
That sound right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that answer your question, Mr. Wallace? Okay. Mr. Barnes, you got something else to say over there?
I just wanted to remind everybody that a lot of the new construction in the city right now is less than 1,200 square foot.
Mhm.
It's between 1050 and 1150. So
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
What's 4? All those opposed?
aye.
5-1, it passes. Let's move on. Okay, we're at the point that we're going to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion